Cool.
Whoa!
Yeah, so now I'm going to go back to screen now that we've done that. We should have some people come in, and there was a decent amount of interaction.
Yeah, I tweeted about it, so maybe like.
And Aaron tweeted about it. So.
Everybody should be here now.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really cool. I mean, I don't have nearly as much control. It feels a lot more haphazard. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are going to be seeing this after the fact, this is Art Rage, or is it Art Rage Studio? Do we know? Aaron?
Are you using Art Rage 4? Is that what
Art
it
Rage
is?
4, yeah.
Yeah, it might be 4 or 4.5, I think, is the newest one.
Yeah, it's super cool. As far as simulating brush strokes and whatnot. You zoom in.
Zoom in on it and get some of that nice.
Now I'm getting capped.
Really nice.
Yeah, I'm getting capped, but I think it's more of a resolution issue because I mean, obviously, it's not like actor or anything like that.
Have you tried changing your canvas yet? Because you can get different kinds of canvas texture too.
How do I do that?
There should be a canvas palette somewhere.
Canvas.
Let's see. I'm going to open it on mine. Yeah, it's probably under View Canvas Settings.
View Canvas. Okay.
Yeah,
Ooh.
and then that first option there at the top. Those are all your presets. So just click on that.
Ooh, I can turn lighting on or off.
Yeah.
This is with the lighting on.
Yeah. So
lighting off. Yeah. So that's going to give me the specularity.
Yeah. So where it says no name there at the top, if you click on that, that's all the presets. And then the one I like the best is, I believe it's Essential Canvas.
What's that?
It's under
Essential Canvas.
It's under Canvas. Yeah. That's the one right there.
And then I can make it metallic?
Yeah.
Whoa. No, I don't want it metallic. That's crazy. And I can change the grain size. Too big. Way too big. I think that's a good size.
It looks really good printed too, but I would do a lot of that texture stuff just on overlay layer, and that way you don't have to worry about messing it up. You could just paint underneath.
Can you do blending modes like that?
Yeah, in the layers there's blend modes.
Yeah, this is cool. That's my take.
It's a little more unpredictable, I think. You don't have as much control, but that makes it feel a little more realistic.
Yeah, it does.
Like
if I was going to do something like loose and painterly, just like a kind of a quick landscape study or something like that, I think it would be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn this. I'm losing some of my specularity though. I'm wondering what's going on with that. That might be the canvas.
Yeah, this canvas is a little more grainy, so it's gonna disrupt the glare a little bit.
I don't mind that terribly. It's a nice change of pace. I keep feeling like I keep expecting my pressure sensitivity to affect the opacity, and that's clearly not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well, there's blenders in there. Have you tried the blenders?
Where?
It's that one that looks like the palette knife in your tool. Yeah.
This guy?
Yeah, that one there.
Oh.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's
Really
if you add some color and then mix it together with that, it'll give you kind of a more dramatic effect. That one works well for that. And then there's some that kind of simulate watercolor.
Is that going to be? No. What's the hotkey for that? Maybe K. Yeah, there we go.
How does this thing work performance-wise? I know.
This is really fast.
It is pretty
It
fast.
doesn't slow down whatsoever.
Even on a big canvas, if you use the biggest brushes, like the biggest size blender you can use, it might lag a little bit, but
Let's go.
It's
Oil paint, max size.
doesn't let you go very big.
No, it doesn't. I think it's big. No, it's still going. I think I just froze the brush preview size. I think I could probably go. Let's go 1,000. If I crash, the whole Hangout might go down, but. Yeah, now it's dragging a little bit, but not terribly.
Yeah, but if you're gonna paint that much of the screen at once, you might as well use the paint bucket or something. So
Well, now I'm just being an ass.
I think people have that expectation sometimes that these giant brushes are going to work just as fast as smaller ones, and if you consider all of the power that it takes to compute all of those individual lines, that's like millions and millions of lines.
Well, then they're just being crazy. And
Yeah.
I agree.
And it's not a practical way to paint. Like if you're painting with brushes that big, then you're doing something wrong. You know, just sort of start with a smaller canvas and do all the big work first, and then enlarge the canvas.
So what do you got going in the background there, Rutten? Lock in on you.
Yeah, this is just some of my artwork, or it's over there.
Is that a companion or is that a companion hybrid?
It's the companion. The hybrid I don't like because it apparently doesn't have you have to hook it up to a computer, and so. You know,
oh shoot! Hang on one second. We have a Q&A type of thing that I didn't have on this entire time. And no one has asked any questions, but now that we
yeah, if anybody wants to ask questions in the audience or
I think there's an automatic like 30-second delay between now and when they actually hear this. But FYI, those of you who are, I think regardless of whether they're watching from the Google Plus page or YouTube, I think if you're watching the YouTube video, it gives you like a little yellow overlay that says like join the conversation or like Q&A or something like that. So if you click that, it should open up a new window that will allow you to ask questions. They'll pop up on my screen, and one of the four of us.
Yeah, I've got mine open. I'll try to keep an eye on it too.
Will answer depending on whether or not we think it's a stupid question. No, there are no stupid questions.
Only stupid answers.
Yes.
Which we will provide.
Yes. I have an abundance of those. Oh, do you guys want to, Torn and Fernand, if you guys want to do one of these cool overlay type of things, I could tell you how to do that.
Yes,
Yeah, I would like to do that.
That would be
How
nice.
excited you got. Okay, so what you're going to do, on the left side of your screen, you'll see a little red toolbox.
You sir.
Yes.
So click on that.
Mhm.
And then the top leftmost icon, it's like a little person's head inside of a circle.
Wait.
I'm writing his head after.
Sorry.
Yeah, so if you open up that toolbox, it'll open up like a little window on the right side of your screen, yes?
Yes.
So if you look, the top leftmost icon underneath the toolbox, there's a little person's head inside of a circle.
Yes.
So if you click that, that should give you an option to do, it's called lower third. So you can put your name, and you can put a little description. So for me, where it says facebook.com, blah, 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 blah. So I typed that in, and I think by default, you see where it has the little thing with the meth in it in the circle? So by default, it's going to choose whatever your Google profile logo is. It'll put that in the circle. I manually picked this one. And then once you're all set with that stuff, you can turn the lower third on. At the top right, it's like a little radio button.
Okay.
So you'll turn that on. See if we have any questions at the time. No.
So custom overlay off or on?
No, you don't want that one. You just want to do lower third.
Okay.
So once you have all the info you want, press that that little switch at the top right.
It's right? It looks
Yep.
good?
Now it probably looks backwards to you, right?
It does.
Yeah, I'm one step ahead of you. So next to that little on-off switch, there's a little like a little box with an arrow that says
Okay.
flip. So if
Yeah,
you do that,
I
it
see
should
it.
fix it for you.
Okay, great.
And then Torin, you want to do the overlay?
What was that?
Thomas? Do you want to do the overlay that we're doing?
Yeah, I'm looking for the logo thing.
Okay. Let's see. I think it's. Oh, you have no. You're not even a person, Aaron. You don't have anything. You're just anonymous. Anonymous Aaron.
I'm messing up something I already had working.
You don't do that. I think it's interesting to see what site people are using in that little description. Fernanda's using her DeviantArt. I'm using my Facebook. Aaron is using nothing. It doesn't exist.
I'm not really here.
You're not really here. Oh, apparently they have another cool feature now called Applause. Do I have that here? Hang on a second. I don't know if we... I don't know how that works. But supposedly people can like give thumbs up or thumbs down at certain parts of the video, and it will... I don't know.
I don't even know.
But it's got a bunch of cool features, I think. Let's see, Torin. Sweet. You're up. Yep, works for you.
Awesome.
I'm gonna check the page, the event page, and see if anything's happening or if people. Eric's coming in a minute. And I just got your message.
It's true.
I could have read it on air, but I decided not to because I'm a gentleman.
No, no.
Now I want you to read it.
Now it sounds like something obscene. It wasn't. She
know.
said she had to go get dressed. And get things.
Yeah, he should put on some clothes before going.
Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
that's good.
I'm gonna be quiet. I'm digging a hole here. In fairness, I was the one. I said that I needed to go powder my nose.
Oh, okay. That's not code for anything, is it?
No.
No.
This is going horribly off the rails.
It is.
Because I'm here. That's what I do.
It's your fault. So let's see if people are in this room trying to figure out what's going on. Don't think so. I think we're okay. Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to leave this open. There are a couple things we're going to be doing. Aaron was kind enough to type up a couple of different talking points, which would be good to discuss. I think for that it might make sense to wait for Eric. In the meantime, you know, I was just sharing my screen. If you guys want to do that, if there's anything you want to work on, it's not a big deal if there isn't, but just to have some type of a visual whatever, because we are quote-unquote artists. We should kind of be doing art things, something to that effect. Why is everyone looking at me? Let me turn this off. Now we're staring at her. So you guys can't tell, but I'm like the quote-unquote cameraman. So if I click one of your little thumbnails, everybody's going to be seeing that unless I click off. The way Hangouts works is whoever's making the most noise gets the video feed. Unless you, yeah. So right now, there's Eric.
Hello.
Eric
Hello.
Wilkerson, everybody.
Yes. All right.
So yeah, we're waiting for your video. But Eric, in the meantime, Fernanda, super talented artist, is joining us.
Hi. How are you?
Eric is here,
Hi.
and we're kind of trying to figure out how all this fun stuff
Hello.
works. Oh, yeah.
What's
So-
up, Eric?
We all have these cool little overlay things. I don't know if you have any interest in putting one on. You see how we all have these little like news anchor things?
Right here.
Hello.
Does that show up for me too?
No, but I can tell you how to do it if you want to do it.
No.
That's something you're interested in. Putting on chapstick.
That's pretty easy. So what are you guys working on?
I was just messing around with Art Rage. Remember that thing that we were talking about?
Ah, yeah, I got you all excited about it.
That was you! You were talking about it.
Yeah.
Check this sweet stuff out. So I'm messing around with it, and Aaron was telling me how to do all kinds of cool canvas stuff. Now, if I can remember how to do that, go to...
Is this the pro version or is this the free
Yeah,
one?
this is the pro one.
Okay. Quite
Um,
expensive, huh?
no, not at all. It's like $40.
Yeah, I know. I'm just.
So now I'm looking for. I can't find this freaking canvas. Oh, here it is. Canvas settings. I'm going to see what else we got. Select from Select from collection. No. What should we do? Let's do stucco. That's way too big. Nice. This is a bad one.
Yeah, some of those are pretty pretty weird.
I don't.
I like that essential canvas, and then maybe a couple others, and then the rest are like, you know,
Yeah.
they're just kind of filler.
What's candy wrapper? Oh God.
Oh.
That's
What
kind
is that?
Ugh. I don't know if you can tell. I don't like it.
of.
This looks just.
But the canvas doesn't affect like your painting, like when you're putting it on top, right?
Not. Let me pull up the original. The basic canvas was cool. Is this the one I was using originally?
Probably basic canvas or something.
But point being, how can I reset this? Reset canvas color, reset. Do we know what the default one is? Is this yeah, I think this is the default one. But for now, you can see it's got kind of some of this. Excuse me. The
Grain?
yeah.
I think the canvas texture is an overlay that applies to everything, and you can change it on the fly, but if you've already laid down paint or texture with a pre-existing canvas texture, I think it stays the same.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of computational stuff otherwise. Oh, I turned off the Q&A again. There's a lot of things. Okay, so we can ask your audience to submit questions, and they will appear below. We've got 4
Hey, audience.
Yeah,
Submit
audience.
some questions.
Do things.
Anything. We'll answer any question,
Bueller.
especially ones about Mike's personal life.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
Easy.
Hey, you told me to come up with some talking points, so
I didn't see that on the list of talking points you read.
I forgot to send you that
See
one.
that one. Ooh, this is cool. If I turn down the thinners, I get all kinds of cool stuff. And I'm gonna do.
Oh, I like this one.
Boom! Check this out.
You're having a little too much fun over there, Mike.
It's okay. It's my world.
Mike, try something else. Try this. Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. So turn down the thinner to like 20%.
Yeah.
All right. Now turn your loading down to about 30. All right. Now just try to draw a straight line, like above any of that.
That's cool.
Your
Well, it's still going pretty far.
Huh?
Are you expecting it to run out of pigment?
Yeah, it does. Just
I
draw,
think I
just
could
draw a
try-
straight horizontal line.
Horizontal line. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now see, if you increase the loading to,
Yeah, I assume it's not going to run out otherwise. So that affects like how much pigment's being applied.
Right. How much paint is on your brush? How thin is the paint? How much pressure do you want to apply?
One of the things I was saying that I'm not crazy about yet is affecting. Like I don't see how like if I dab, it automatically does this tapered thing. Like I just want something a little more organic. I want kind of like an irregular splotch as
okay.
opposed to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can change the size of the brush.
Well, yeah, I'm doing that, but like see how it automatically gives me this like starts really small and then ends really small. Like I want something a little bit, and I tried messing around with the square head setting, which is over here, and so that might be a little bit better. I don't know. I am figuring out. And then rotation, I'm not really sure. I guess that just keeps kind of like a uniform diameter, even if I don't know. I really don't know what I'm talking about. I do like this. I ran out of pigment, but I'm doing the same stroke. Doing the same stroke, and if I go back into this paint, it picks up that pigment.
That is pretty cool.
It is.
I'm gonna mess with this thing at some point. I just don't know when.
And I got stickers and I've got stencils.
Oh, that's the best, man.
Stickers.
Stickers.
How do I? Can I
And
do this?
I think there's like a glitter bottle or something too where you can dump glitter on it.
Aaron, how do I move the stencil?
How do you remove it?
Ooh, there it is. Okay.
There you go.
So I'm going to get my oil paint, I think, maybe, or pencil, and it doesn't work. Ah! Now how do I? It's not keeping me inside the lines.
Is there a selection tool? That'd be an easier way to do it.
Well, I had my select. I had something selected. It's not, I don't know. I give up.
Can you use
I
like
quit.
spray tool or something?
The spray tool? You're crazy.
Like paint has it.
Ooh, I've got a grass stencil. Oh, maybe this is for only airbrush. I wonder.
Yeah, airbrush. Spray. The same.
No. No.
I don't know if there's a spray brush, but there's blenders that'll do kind of a splatter effect.
Look, I got this. I got the airbrush going.
Not this one.
Nobody's asked a question, and I'm going to go ahead and blame Aaron.
I have a question. Fernanda, do you use primarily Corel Painter for your work?
No, it's just Photoshop. I've never
Photoshop.
used any other.
You guys are all Photoshop people.
Yeah. Aaron is our resident.
Where's Mike Thompson? I thought I was.
He's conveniently missing.
I do use Painter though. I'm not gonna lie.
You told me what do you use it for?
All right.
I'll do whole pieces in Painter just for the hell of it, just because I feel like I should be using it because it's really good. It's just unstable.
Yeah. It's a little buggy.
How do I get rid of these stupid stencils?
Like if they could get Painter
No,
to
it's
run
fine.
the way Photoshop does, I'd probably quit using Photoshop. But
Don't you say that. Alright, I want to remove this. I want to remove this stencil. Ooh, this is cool. So this is the paint
Yes.
tube I'm using. And now I'm going to take my palette knife. Alright, that's cool.
Ah, that's really nice.
I think I saw this once before. And that's cool. It's got kind of like that smear texture too.
Yeah, there's one in there. One of the blenders called Frost. That one will give you kind of a cool.
Is this a mark on here? This one's a no. What? Whoa!
It's watercolor.
your reaction to that was really nice.
Whoa! Oh, it's a blend. What? Get out of town. Now I've got. What is this? Whoa!
Oh
What
my
is
God.
that?
Oh my God.
I think that's just glitter there.
It looks like marbles, Aaron.
It looks like
It's the marbles brush.
Bedazzled your canvas.
So I'll throw out a few questions while
Yeah,
we're on
throw
the
out some
topic.
questions.
While we're on the topic of what software we use, what hardware does everybody use? Like as far as your tablet and so on.
Personally, I use a computer.
Oh really? Where do you get one of those? Can you get that at Best Buy?
I think you can only get them at CompUSA.
How do you spell it? Computer?
Circuit City.
Hold on, I'm going to take a note of this. Hold on a second.
Yeah, take some notes. Take some meeting minutes.
I would just start hitting keys on my keyboard for effect, but I'd probably like mess something up. So
Hang on, look at what I'm doing.
so Mike uses a computer. How about
I
everybody
use a
else?
computer. I use a PC. I've got Windows 7 going.
And what kind of tablet?
I have a Wacom Intuos Pro.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm
Which-
giving you a high five. You can't see.
Is it the medium or the large or the
Yeah,
small?
this is the medium. I've been using Wacom stuff for like about 15 years or something crazy like that.
Oh, that's
Dating
really
myself.
fun.
Wow.
Right.
How do you feel about that grainy surface texture that's on there on that
This one right
particular
here?
tablet?
Oh,
Yeah.
this one. It doesn't feel super grainy. I don't particularly remember when they made the switch. I definitely remember. I used a Graphier back when that was a thing for a while. And then I switched to an Intuos 3, used that for a while, and then until very recently I was using an Intuos 4 wireless, which was pointless for it to be wireless because I had it plugged in all the time.
Yeah. It's like right by your computer.
And then when I did, shameless plug, I did a tutorial video on color and light for Wacom within the past couple months. And for my reward, they gave me an Intuos Pro, which I still have a hard time understanding all that. Where what was once the Bamboo is now the Intuos, and what was once the Intuos is now the Intuos Pro.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's because there's like, 20 Intuoses out there. So if you do a search for Intuos, chances are you might get some, results that are totally outdated. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I have used I've used several Cintiqs. At the Hubert School where I teach, they've got the 22-inch HD.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, because I demo stuff, I go to events sometimes for Wacom, so I reached out to one of my connections and just kind of was shameless in saying, hey, I'm going to Comic-Con, what do I have to do to borrow a companion for the convention? And he was super nice. So I got to borrow a companion, which for those of you not in the know is it's a portable, like it's a standalone computer. They have two different models. They're both 13 inches. One is the hang on, let me lock on you, Aaron, for demonstration purposes.
I can't figure out which way to point. It's all backwards.
Oh, you're good. Well, flip yourself. I told you had to flip your feet, Aaron.
Okay, I got a question about the companion, actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's the difference between, I think it's the hybrid, there's like the Android version, and then the other one?
Hit it, Rutten. Take it.
The hybrid version, you have to hook up to a computer. It has Android software, but as far as I know, the Android software isn't really that powerful. So ultimately, you would be using it kind of like a Cintiq 13. Basically, if you got one, you'd have to have it next to your computer or next to your laptop. You could take it out and make it portable, but without the whole operating system built in and being able to load like Photoshop or Painter onto it, I don't see it really being that useful for me personally.
Yeah, the main difference, so you've got the two models, they're both 13 inches. You've got the companion and the companion hybrid. The companion hybrid, like Aaron was saying, as a standalone, fully portable thing, it runs Android. So as such, you can only use apps from Google Play, I think it is. Which, since I'm a Photoshop guy, that kind of stinks. I don't know whether or not they have ArtRage. I know they have Sketchbook Pro, but you also have the ability to, if you're at home, to plug that into your computer, and then it becomes just like a standard, regular Cintiq. Now the other one, the one that I was talking about before, the Cintiq, just a regular companion, it's a standalone Windows 8 based computer. You cannot plug it into your computer. I repeat, you cannot plug it into your computer and have it become just a regular Cintiq, because it is. It's like a regular computer. It's pretty powerful. I think they have two different models as far as like power concerned. They're both solid, and like any other computer, it doesn't come with software, but you can get Photoshop. For Comic-Con, I had Photoshop on there, and you can. I had a Bluetooth keyboard, so it's super cool. It has about, I think, like 8 hours of battery life, which is also really good.
Yeah, it'll run anything your desktop will run pretty much. Right. So that's the advantage to it.
Okay.
And you can hook up a secondary screen to it if you want to plug in a screen through. I think it's DisplayPort that it has.
Yeah, mini DisplayPort. I did that. Oh, that's perfect. I did that Ned, you were there.
Mhm.
I was doing sketches, and when I was painting with the companion, I had my table, and I brought a little TV monitor, and I
Mhm.
used that the mini display port.
So
Brought a table, yeah. So I hooked it up to the monitor. I had the monitor facing out towards pedestrians, so they could see what I was doing live, which was really, really cool.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
that was a really cool display to have. For people to see.
I'd like to see more of that too. More digital artists doing like performance art.
Yeah.
Just
I was
have
terrified.
yeah. Well,
I was totally terrified. And at the start, it did not go well. I totally froze under the pressure. I was doing these, what were supposed to be 15-minute portrait sketches, and I did the first one, and I'm gonna pull my face up because I'm not doing anything. So I also really cleverly found a way around have my internet because internet was pricey. So what I did was I paid for electricity, which was good. Obviously, I needed that for my the companion and the TV and everything. So I had the companion set up. I had my phone, which has like a nice camera on it. So I took pictures. Like I had this first kid come over. I took a picture of him with my phone. I plugged the phone into the companion, so then I got the reference from there, pulled it into Photoshop, and I was doing this 15-minute portrait sketch live while he and his family are standing there. And
Pressure.
right, well, on its own, it was pressure. Now, leading up to this point, when I was teaching, or in the weeks leading up to Comic-Con, I would be teaching at Qbert, and I had, some of my students just sit there for 15 minutes, and I would crank out a sketch, and they turned out fine. But now, obviously, this is a different animal. And this kid, like, he had no motion. He got the picture, and, like, my girlfriend, Caitlin, was there kind of, like, trying to diffuse the situation and, get him to talk because she could tell that I was freaking out, and he was, like, one-word answers and just wasn't about his, like, whatever. And his family was the same.
Stupid.
Yeah. So I'm painting this thing, and immediately it's not coming out the way it doesn't look. It barely looks like a person. Let's be real. And so this is happening, and they're all watching, and 15 minutes is coming up, and it's not good at all. So eventually, like it got so bad that like I couldn't really see. I mean, obviously I was having visual stimulus, but I couldn't really see what I was doing. Like everything was just us. So eventually they were like, yeah, just email it to us. We're going to go. And I was like, thank God. But even after they left, I was so rattled. Like for the rest of the hour that like I had to get up and go to the bathroom and kind of do one of those things where you look yourself in the mirror, you're like, get it together, man. And, eventually I came back, and the next guy who came, super nice guy, and he had like a really great face. The first guy had a tough. Some people, they don't really have faces. Everybody has a face, but like, they don't really have any like, distinguishable features.
Feature, yeah.
So that kid was that. Plus, so anyway, the next guy who came had like this amazing, bright, bubbly personality and a great face to sketch. And so I did his, and it went great. And then for the rest of, the rest of that day and the subsequent 3 days, everything went fine. But performance art, especially if you're not used to it, which I was not, it's it's something to, it's tough. But it ended up working out really well. We did well with the portrait sketches. Honestly, I think we did better with the sketches than we did with prints.
I think you were the only artist doing that, right? Painting live.
What was that?
Alley. You were the only one who did that in the artist alley, right?
I was or was not? I was the only one?
Yeah, I think so.
Innovator. Yeah, I think so. It seemed like a really good idea just because, we're digital artists, and especially if you have, like, a companion or something like that. Even if I couldn't get access to the companion, I would have brought my laptop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, my MacBook. Obviously, that means I'm dual platform. I work primarily on my desktop, which is a PC, but I do have a MacBook Pro, and that also has a mini display port, so you can plug that into the TV if I wanted to do that. And it just made a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
And now that I've done that, everyone's going to start doing it, and I'm not going to be.
I'm
not going to be a unique snowflake anymore.
Who else uses Mac out of everybody here? Anybody? Or are you all Windows?
Crickets.
Yes.
Oh, hang on. Oh, I forgot about this. Hang on 1 second. Comedy is all about timing, and I just completely lost it. So what I what I would like, if you'd be so kind, would you ask that question again, Aaron?
Who is a Mac user and who's a Windows user out of everybody here? Damn it. Hang on, I think there's a cricket in my house or something here.
Yeah, Torrin, what do you use?
Windows 7 PC.
Yeah.
Cintiq 21UX.
Nice.
Yeah, Windows 7 Pro, Cintiq 24 HD.
What do you Fernanda?
I use Windows 7 in notebook because I needed it for traveling, so I just stuck to it. I would rather have a PC though. And the same tablet as you, like an Intuos Pro Medium.
Oh, hey, we have a question!
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Where?
I keep turning this thing off by accident. Oh, cool. Yeah, my friend Bridget, who super talented artist, she went to the Qbert School. She's a Qbert School alum, and she asks, "Can you guys see this? Otherwise, I'll just read it."
Yeah, I can see.
I see it.
Yeah. So she says, "Hey guys, Bridget here." I love you, Bridget. She says, "Do we have any tips for coloring leather in Photoshop? Think Catwoman's costume, something like that. Who would like to take it?"
Okay.
Eric, we don't have video on you.
It's all right.
This is fine.
Jerk.
So leather is not a matte. Well, it's not a matte surface. It's going to have specular highlights if it's hit a certain way. So you want to have your dark, your mid-tone, and then a bright specular highlight for as the form rounds toward the light. So
does anybody have a piece on their computer like that, like a spandex or leather or something? Because this would be a great opportunity to do some.
I actually do. Let me grab it.
Yeah, go ahead. And if you guys, does everybody know how to share their screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Fernanda?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, cool. So that'll be good. If we have more questions like that kind of lend themselves to demos, let's have your stuff ready.
I think my input on leather too is adding a layer of texture over it, whether it's implied texture with like a sponge or even like a surface texture that you would apply with like a texture effect in Photoshop will also kind of give you that nice leathery effect.
It also depends on what kind of leather. If you're talking about a leather jacket, or if you're talking about some kind of spandexy.
Yeah, well, she was talking, specifically about Catwoman.
Like latex.
I have something really old and awful. I'm gonna share this. Oh God, Fernanda, remember when you and I were talking about like our first digital paintings?
Yes.
So this is one of mine. Where, going back to what Eric is saying, the best way to tell what kind of surface or what kind of material you're working with is by the or just kind of like the transitions between your shadows and your highlights, or if there are any speculars. For example, if you have a really matte surface, like, I don't know, what's a good example of a matte surface? I don't know, like felt, or I don't know.
Fabric.
Yeah, some kind of fabric where, the surface of that material is so porous, it's so coarse, that, when the rays of light hit that, it just gets dispersed so much that you're not going to have that sharp specular highlight. where something like this leather jumpsuit thing with absolutely no color in it, because God knows why. But anyway, you can see, for the most part, you've got either mid-tones or dark. And then you have really kind of sharp, abrupt transitions as you get to these highlights. Obviously now, if I did this, even though I have this kind of cop-out of a white background, I would still put some color. And I think that, if you look at Adam Hughes' stuff, I think he's pretty good with color. I mean, he's amazing, obviously, with leather. He's the guy I always look to, for his Catwoman stuff. Let's see if I can pull something up.
Okay, so I guess I could share my screen.
Yeah,
I had to do
pulling
that.
up this Catwoman. If I can.
You're looking at Catwoman?
Yeah, I'm looking for an Adam Hughes piece.
I can pull that up. I got it.
I think like a person I've looked for like that kind of leather is Papa
Like,
Ninja.
I've got an Adam Hughes piece up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure out how to do this. Okay, fingers crossed that this works. Share. Okay, that's not sharing my screen. Oh!
Oh my God! Is everybody still here?
Yes.
Oh, God. I think I don't know if we're still broadcasting.
It says
no,
live still.
Okay. Did we ever lose live?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay, so how am I supposed to share my screen?
I just lost a year off my life.
I think when it gives you the options, it gives you specific windows to share, and then it gives you specific screens
Yeah, I've
too.
got like 7 different windows that I could possibly share, so I don't know which one it's gonna do. Okay.
I can see Photoshop there now.
Huh?
I can see Photoshop now.
But it's a white screen.
Yeah.
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 The problem I had the other day. Okay. Let's try this. What am I looking at now? What are you seeing now?
Nothing right now.
Nothing?
It's the,
Us.
yeah. It's us on your screen.
Okay, so it's not that one. How about
Okay,
now?
I was just checking. Everything is intact. Continue.
Okay. Oh,
Don't
There we
mind
go.
me.
what do you see now?
Okay, we got it. I
That
can
was
see
Yeah.
it.
That's it. That's it.
That
You
was
seeing my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Good.
Say it again?
Yeah, we see you.
Okay. All right. So basically, this is like a very graphic version of what, like that leather that Bridget, you said?
Yeah,
That
Bridget.
Bridget is talking about. So you're going to have your dark surfaces, your mid-tone, and then your boom. It's like a stark highlight. So like a realistic version of that would
No,
be
it's not yours.
like leather pants like this is the realistic equivalent of that, and then taking that a step further to a digital painting where you're going to have a surface that's not going to have a lot of wrinkles and folds. It's just going to have a dark surface, and then as it rounds toward the light, you're going to go mid-tone and then boom, stark highlight.
Right.
And then the closer, the more intense the highlight is, will mean that the closer the light source is to the leather, or the more intense the light source will be, the higher the value.
I also feel like the more kind of spandexy, the more plastic-like the leather is, the less gradation you're going to have between that kind of mid-tone to the highlight. It's just going to almost go straight from that dark straight to like a pinpoint, really bright specular.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's when you get into that like latex, black
Is
latex
my mic working?
feel.
I think this is a good example of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up
Right.
Fernandez.
It's like Papa Ninja.
Those are from my earlier modeling
it's-
days.
It's like the more shiny you want it to be, the less transition you have in your gradients.
Yes,
Right,
like
right,
the most
right.
like plastic feeling, then it will be like strong. The
Yeah,
I think that goes. I think that goes for pretty much anything too, whether it's leather or any object. If you want it to look shinier, your highlights
Yeah,
are
like
usually
metal.
more usually more of a difference in contrast.
I'm gonna do
Yes.
something here really quick. I'm gonna open up a Photoshop document and just do like a little kind of theory type of thing. So what we're talking about. Can you guys see my screen? Or I think I'm still stuck on Fernanda.
No, you're
me?
good.
I can see Photoshop.
I see Photoshop.
It's like a white, yeah,
I think those of us who are in the broadcast see different things than whoever is.
You have to manually toggle over.
Right,
That's
right.
what I've been doing.
So, for example, this is what material? Cloth is kind of like this, where it's kind of jaggy like this, right? So when light hits, this is your light coming down. It's going to hit these individual surfaces and scatter this way and that way, and So when it comes back to the eye, it gets really diffused. So you're going to have a lot more midtones. You're not going to have those sharp speculars where something like a spandex or plastic leather, whatever, your light's going to come like this, and it's going to bounce right back because there isn't that coarse. You don't have this texture to it to break it up. So you'll also see this kind of like on like the roof of a car, like really smooth metal, and that's why you get those really, really bright specular highlights. And it really comes down to on like a really minute surface level. This is what's going on. So, like Eric was talking about, you do have different kinds of leather. Some are like that plastic leather where it's like this. Some are kind of like this, where most of it's going to bounce right back, but some of it's going to scatter a little bit, and depending on how smooth that surface is, the coarser it is, the more gradation you're going to have from shadow to midtone to highlight. And the smoother the surface is, there's going to be almost no gradual transition. It's going to go straight from dark straight to like really bright specular.
Yeah, I think the form does kind of affect it too. Like if Eric could back up his example there, on the leg, on the broader part of the leg, it's a little more diffused, and then where there's the wrinkles, the highlight's a little harder because the wrinkle itself is a bit, I guess, sharper itself.
I think we may have lost Eric.
Yeah, he's MIA again.
Yeah, that jerk. So,
do we want to do another question for everybody?
Yeah, I don't know if we have another one yet.
Somebody should ask a question.
What's that?
Somebody in the audience needs to ask a question.
Yes, we need another question.
Audience.
Don't make Bridget do all the work.
We have some questions too we can ask if
we do have questions. In the meantime, let's do that. And also, we should note that from the time we just yelled at the audience to say ask questions, they're not going to get that for another like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
And from that point on, if they still don't do it, then they're in trouble. But in the meantime, let's look at some of the talking points.
If they don't ask a question, we're going to start wearing silly hats and mustaches and whatnot. It's just going to degenerate.
Yeah, well, if left to my own devices, I would do that anyway. So do you want to hit on some of those talking points, Rutten?
Yeah. How about ways to get exposure for your artwork for free, let's say? Free ways to get exposure.
Alrighty. So who wants to start with that? Do any of us have any idea? I think we're all wanting more.
Well, I mean, besides us, but for the beginner, for the person who doesn't have a website or anything.
Okay. Who wants to take that to start?
Start a blog.
Okay.
That's what I would do. Start a blog. Get on Facebook. There's so much social media now that I'm not going to say it's easy to get seen, but it's easier than it used to be.
Oh, absolutely.
That's for sure. So just, whore yourself and That's what I did.
But and we spoke about this I think yesterday. We did another one of these yesterday. We're kind of doing these on the fly, but we were talking about having this super accessible platform where it's so easy to get your voice and your face out there. You're welcome, Bridget. What that does is, yeah, it makes it really easy to have your stuff seen. It makes it really easy to get exposure. But on the flip side, everybody has that same opportunity, which means the market becomes so overly saturated that you have incredibly talented, almost like freakishly talented people who nobody
they're
knows
not
about.
well known.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about, and it has nothing to do with their skill level. It has everything to do with the fact that there is just this sheer volume of stuff that you need to kind of go the extra mile. I always like to say that, if you're going to do the freelance thing, if you're, trying to make it as an individual, as an artist, you need to be just as much, if not more, of a business marketing person than as an artist.
Yeah. You need to be your own manager in that sense.
Which it's backwards in a lot of ways, but unfortunately that's the nature of the beast. And another reason why I decided to do these things, just the conversations that I've had with you guys, Aaron, Torn, Fernando, etc., that what we do is so naturally isolating, whatever. We're so secluded by nature that we follow everybody else's work. Fernando, I've been following your stuff forever and thinking you're incredibly talented. But
I follow everyone.
And then, I didn't meet you until Comic-Con. Meeting some of these other people and then being shocked at how, down to earth and personable everybody is. It's because we're so kind of stuck in our own world that we don't really get the opportunity to meet the other people in our field, like as human beings. So to be able to do something like this, get to know one another, and from the audience's perspective, now we're more than just our work. Now we have a face and we have a voice, and it kind of personalizes and humanizes us. And I think that
it makes it feel not so distant, so you can approach person if you want to do anything like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
It makes the whole community a little bit smarter. I mean, there are tons of us, especially now that you've got Facebook and other stuff. You can see just the sheer volume of artists who do this stuff. And at the same time, it's weird. Even though it's a huge community, it's still very small. A lot of, for the most part, we know one another, or we know, oh yeah, I've seen that guy's stuff, or I've heard that guy's name. So it's crazy how you have that stark contrast. So doing things like this, I think it's a really great way to kind of bridge those gaps and shrink the community. Not just, hey, we've spoken on Facebook, but now I feel as though a little bit I know you guys, which is awesome.
I feel the same way.
Hugs all around.
I know no artists in real life anymore. I had a few friends from when I was in college, but even when I was in college, there were 8 of us in my illustration class, and probably 5 of them don't do art anymore. So it's I don't really know any artists, so stuff like this is cool for me.
I think that brings up a good question. What keeps everybody interested in doing art, and why haven't we all just dropped off after college?
Because I'm not stable mentally is why I'm still doing this.
I'll agree to that too. Yeah.
That's really what it is.
I think that kind of goes with it comes with the territory, being a little bit off. I think you have to be in order to do this type of stuff.
Yep.
I just feel like I could not imagine myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
I love doing this. Even if I would be alone without showing it to everyone or anything, I will still do it for myself.
And the amount of effort that you put into any job, you could put into doing art, and the more effort you put in, the further you're going to get. It's not, you're never going to hit a ceiling. You can always keep going further and further and further. It just depends on how much drive.
The bigger the goal you have, the more you have to give in for that. Not in a negative way, but you'll have to spend more time. You'll have to leave things apart from it, so you can just dedicate all the time you need and all the effort. And it's like it's really tough if you want to like get really far, but at the end, like it's just hard work that will make you be
So it's a
as
lot
good as
of
you want to get.
it's a lot of sacrifice to be
It
able to
is.
do.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But
Give me
it's
1 second.
it's worth it though.
Yeah, to try and bring some more Q&A people in. I'm just gonna mute myself for a second.
Okay, I'll throw another question out. How do you know when a piece is finished? When do you stop working on something?
That's hard. I always feel like I could get back to any of the pieces, but I feel like you have to know when to stop. Sometimes you just keep going and you start doing things that make the piece like loose,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know, like the word. Like it just started looking not that good as it will look if you just stop at the point where it needs to like stop.
I
think
got
maybe
two answers to that. I got two answers to that. One, it kind of depends on what it is, but I know it's done when it disgusts me because I can't stand it anymore. That's how I know it's done. And
I think most of
also-
my stuff is done before I start.
I know, you know that, and if there's a certain kind of look I'm going for, like I'm trying to get things look traditional. When I look at it myself and it's like I don't know if that's digital or not, then I'm good.
Yeah.
Now that's an interesting thing. You know, a lot of digital artists that I follow, especially who do stuff in Photoshop with really incredible kind of traditional looks to them. I feel like a lot of them, they're doing the paintings and then they're like manually going back in and adding texture and whatnot, and like adding like little artifacts that make it look traditional. Which at that point, it feels like it's actually more work.
It is.
Yeah,
It
and
is.
I wonder if at a certain point, and admittedly, this is coming from like a strictly digital guy, but is there a point that you get to where it's like, okay, at this point, I might as well just paint on canvas? Where is that line?
I think about that all the time. All of the time, because I don't know, it's just something about a personal preference where, I mean, there's certain things that should look really digital, and it should look like, okay, I can tell that was kind of rendered on a computer, but some of the stuff that, like, I personally do, I just kind of like that look more, a little bit better, but I like the convenience of doing it on a Cintiq or, just in Photoshop, period. So I think the doing it and making it look traditional is kind of like it's like a marrying of the two. So it's easier for me to like paint it with Photoshop, but then get it to look like I painted, on canvas.
Traditionally.
Yeah,
And I think it also gets a lot easier with time, just with technological advances. The software is getting better and making it a lot easier to to simulate traditional stuff. It's easier to blend. It's easier to get some of those subtle nuances that you would have with traditional.
Like I could paint an oil painting and it'd take me a week, or maybe more, or I could do it in Photoshop and make it kind of look like one, and I could do it in a few days.
Eric's back. Hi, Eric.
Yeah, I never left. I just was on.
He was just a looming presence in the back.
Just hovering around, just waiting to jump in.
Win the pounce.
But honestly, as far as there being the only difference I've found between working digitally and working traditionally is that there's no brushes to clean. Other than that, I'd say you're going to invest about the same amount of time either way.
I agree.
So
much.
Because you're gonna paint it, you're gonna blend, you're gonna do whatever you got to do in Photoshop to get your painting the way you want it to be. But sometimes I find it's faster to just paint it traditionally because I'm not gonna zoom in to like here and paint an eye. I'm gonna paint it from here with a small brush and get it done. Whereas if I'm going to do it digitally, I know I'm making the illustration big for print, but the head is almost life size in the illustration, in the digital drawing. So I could zoom in like this close and just render the hell out of every little pore or any little piece of the illustration, rather than just pulling out and saying, okay, what's important? And once I do that, it takes about the same amount of time. Like Torrin, you're saying, if you were to paint a portrait in traditionally, it would take you a week, but if you were to do it in Photoshop, it would take a few days. So what? You're plus or minus 3 days.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, that just comes down to speed. Like I know guys that can knock out a finished portrait in an afternoon.
Yeah.
And anything else that they do is just little details.
Yeah, you were saying this to me yesterday.
Huh?
I like this question a lot because this was a conversation we were actually having yesterday, you and I, Eric, where
Yeah.
you know, I'm showing this portrait that I'm working on, and I think something you highlighted with with digital you can get really close, which is great because you get so much more detail. But the flip side is it makes it that much harder to to stay aware of the scope of things. It makes it so much easier to kind of fall into the depths of like detailism where you get
because I mean if you're going to do that, then it becomes I'm not painting, I'm just copying a photograph.
Yeah.
And I mean if you're going to do that, then sure, digital paint, but the same thing can be said for certain portrait painters.
I mean, look at Chuck Close, where it's like literally.
Yeah, well, no, Chuck Close is still fine art because if you get close on a Chuck Close, every square is a different abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, introducing people or new friends or girls I would meet, I'd take them to the Met. Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, and I would take them to a Chuck Close painting. But where it used to hang, where one or two of them used to hang, I would come around the opposite direction so that they were close up on it when they saw it. They weren't seeing it from a distance and then walking up to it. So I would bring them around and then say, "What are you looking at?" And they're just looking at squares of abstraction. And then the fun part would be where I'd say, okay, well, take a couple steps back, keep going, and then you see that realization in their face. Oh, it's a bearded man. What the hell is that? I was looking at his nostril. But it's all the same thing. It takes around about the same amount of time to do a digital painting as it does to do a traditional. There's just more thought on the front end for a traditional painting, where you have to know what your colors are going to be, what your values are going to be from the start, and then paint it. Rather than in Photoshop or digital, you could go through the whole thing in gray tone and then on an overlay, like drop in color and be done. And nobody's going to question it. It's or you could spend time laboring over it, doing blobs and for an hour until all of a sudden you see something you like. And I've had really famous concept art friends of mine say, "Yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing half the time."
This is very common.
Trial and error.
But they make it work in the end, and you're like, "What the hell, man? You had no idea, and you just pulled that out your ass." But they're not going to say that in their Gumroads video.
Right.
Of course.
We keep that on the low. But anyway, that's my piece, and I'm going to go back to mute before I say something.
No. It's interesting because that was like my exact progression, where when I started digital, I didn't have the confidence to kind of just say, okay, these are the colors I'm going with, these are the values I'm going with. I taught myself kind of on the fly, and it didn't look great. But so when I was starting off, I did a lot of stuff. Let's see if I can pull it up. Hold, please, for directory assistance.
I think it's worth mentioning too that you don't have to choose traditional art or digital art. You can do
Right.
both. And Eric's a good example of that, where it's pretty much indistinguishable between a digital painting and an oil painting. I think that's pretty cool because a lot of people think that you have to do one or the other, and it's a decision you have to make.
That's amazing to be able to. One of the things that I admire most about you, Eric, is that we were looking through your portfolio yesterday, and we should do that again. Anyway, for the meantime, we're scrolling through, and you've got a pretty even mix of traditional and digital, and I think that the greatest testament to your ability is that I had to really try to figure out which was which.
Yeah.
And it takes a certain level of mastery, and it's not digital skill, it's just painting skill, and that you have taken your experience as a traditional fine artist and a painter, and you apply the same workflow and the same theory and things like that. That the two mediums or media or whatever, even though they're so different, they appear so similar. And one of the things, just really quickly, why I pulled this up in the first place is you're talking about one of the things about digital is you can go in and just kind of fudge things in grayscale and go over. And I'm looking at a bunch of these early pieces, and that's exactly what I did, where I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kind of fudged it, and okay, I'm going to go over this. And now I like it, and this was all done in grayscale. And then, okay, well, now I'm going to maybe worry a little bit about color. And, I mean, the end result is okay. I mean, it reads, but at the same time, if you look at some of this more recent stuff, one, it's also a little bit looser, but the point being, now I'm making conscious decisions about, okay, what colors do I want? What's the effect I'm going for here? Where, I feel much more confident that I could recreate this traditionally now than, when I started. Because, the grayscale stuff that I showed you, the grayscale which was colorized, it was so much trial and error, where now I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to feel comfortable saying, okay, this is the color I'm seeing, which is an exercise that I love to do with students. Is I'll pull up a photo reference. Another thing, digital stuff, so many people color pick. And for those of you who don't know what that means, basically you've got reference, and they'll take a little, in Photoshop, they'll take the eyedropper and sample that color and paint that. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think that does the artist such a disservice because you're not actually training yourself to see the colors.
Yeah.
So one of the exercises that I really, really like to do myself and give to my students is, okay, here's a photo. Look at this color, and now without color picker or whatever, I want you to go into your little color selector, and I want you where you've got the whole spectrum. Let me see if I can pull it up. You've got this whole spectrum of colors, and look at the color in the photo. I want you to go through here, and I want you to pick the color and see how close you can get. And that forces you to look in a different way. Now you're really looking for the value, and you're looking for the color, whereas if you're just going to do it kind of figured out with grayscale and going with overlays, you don't really need to have that. You don't have to have that good or that perceptive an eye. Obviously you do to be an artist, but you can afford to play it a lot faster and looser than if you're going to go traditional or apply traditional workflow, where now you really need to be responsible for the brush strokes you make and for the colors you choose. And I see Eric clearly has a mastery of that, and that's why his digital and his traditional look virtually indistinguishable.
Can I show you guys something?
Nope.
Yes.
Yes.
I hope that I can figure out how to share the screen this time.
Hang on, Fernando. I see you talking. I'll unmute you in a second.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
There you go. You're back.
I will have to leave. I'm sorry, but they're calling me.
They.
It was super nice to meet you, everyone.
Yeah, nice to meet
Fernando
you too.
Suarez, everybody, thank you so much. Would you like to do this
for
again,
inviting me.
Fernando?
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
And yeah, I want to make sure, because we didn't really have an opportunity to show a lot of your stuff. Fernanda is ridiculously talented. So as we do more of these, we'll kind of figure out what we want to do format-wise. Hopefully we'll do more Q&A stuff to give each of you guys an opportunity to really shine. But thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for me.
Be sure to grace us with your presence again soon.
I will. Okay.
See you
Bye.
later. Eric, now we're focusing on you.
Okay.
still
So,
looking at just your
keep talking. I just want to gather some stuff real quick.
Yeah, sure thing, man.
Do you want another question?
Let's do it.
Go for it.
Okay. Creative roadblocks and solutions. What do you get stuck on when you're painting the most?
Everything a good answer?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you overcome that?
What do you think, Torrin?
How do I overcome it? I don't know that I do. I kind of just keep going, and eventually it'll kind of works itself out.
You just keep trying, and you don't give up, basically.
Pretty much, like you have to stop and you have to walk away. Like I'll take normally not a whole day, but I'll take a few hours off. I might like watch. Like you just got to get a fresh eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then come back to it, and 9 times out of 10, you kind of see what you want to do. I also flip the pieces a lot. That helps.
Yeah, I'll lay down on the couch and look at it from different angles, or I'll cover up just the eye and look at just the eye or just the nose. And yeah, stepping back from stuff is good, and rather than trying to just be like, I'm just gonna finish this all in one go.
Right.
You know, it's that much harder.
Yeah, because if you get into like a negative part and you keep working through it, you kind of keep doing it the wrong way. At least for me, like if I do something wrong, like I just keep overworking the mistake, and it all just goes bad.
I'm gonna pull something up to highlight just that. Do you guys ever flip your canvas? I think we spoke about this.
I flip it constantly.
Yeah, I flip it a lot too.
Let me find this.
I'll even do that at the end. Like if I'm not super happy with something, I'll wait till the end to flip it and then go, okay, it's a completely new piece. You know?
Yeah.
So sometimes that makes me a little more satisfied.
You know, you're talking about ways to kind of, if you get stuck, what's a way to go through it? And you're talking about fresh eyes and stuff like that. I know personally, when I draw, especially, everything I do naturally comes out slanted. So I need to kind of force myself to like overcompensate. Like if I'm drawing a certain angle that now I know is probably going to come out a little slanted, now I need to tell myself, okay, overcompensate a little bit this way. So one of the things that I love so much about digital is I can constantly check my accuracy. Now, something like this, where I'm flipping it vertically, that's a traditional technique that a lot of artists use. I do this a lot with eyes because obviously I'm predominantly a portrait artist, and I find that eyes are like the single most important part, that if you get them wrong, it doesn't matter how good everything else is, the whole thing's off. So I often find myself doing something like this after a while, because when you flip it upside down, you no longer see it as a face. You just see angles and you see shapes and colors and things like that, which makes it much easier to objectively, get proportions and angles and things right. Now, eventually, your brain is going to kind of adapt and you'll start to see it as a face again, so you need to, reset. But another really great thing that you can't really do with a painting, you can do it with a drawing. Like if you hold a drawing up to the light upside down, you can see it flipped. Like, how would this be? This is the equivalent of the spinning beach ball of the mouse, or of Max. But, the ability to flip it horizontally, which for a painting, I don't know that you can do that traditionally, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm stupid. But the ability to flip it horizontally, especially for me, because like I said, I have a tendency to do things a little bit leaning one way, so it keeps me honest. It makes me, it forces me to check the angles and get perspective and things right. So that's a great way to not get stuck. But for me, Torrin, you're talking about everything stops you all the way through. it's the same thing for me, but I think what's different is most of my issues come before I even start. Where let me stop sharing this for a second. My biggest stumbling block is the stage beginning, getting to the actual painting, where I have this idea and then I'll start to flesh it out and I realize, oh my god, I can't do this. And then right off the bat, I've hit a wall before I even started. So my biggest thing is that I need to do for myself is just kind of shut myself up. Just say, ignore that, start putting some marks down on canvas, and then go from there.
I go through that a lot. You start to overwhelm yourself. You have this really big idea, but then that's way too much for me to do. So you end up not doing it. And I suffer from that too. And sometimes you just got to put it to the side and just be like, hey, I'm just gonna do it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then you see what happens.
I think for beginners too, I know a lot of my students, they have these crazy ideas. The very first painting they're going to do is going to be a portrait. It's start with something simple like an apple or a tree or a mountain or something. Don't go for the absolute hardest possible drawing that you can do. Sometimes you got to set the bar a little lower and work your way up.
Absolutely. But it's frustrating, especially if you're just picking up digital painting or something like that for the first time. You want to go to the flashy stuff. You want to be able to create these amazing results. And specifically, you want to go straight to color. And I feel like that's setting yourself up for a disaster. I think a lot of people go straight from 0 to 60, straight from nothing to color. And most of the beginner issues that I see are all value-based. And the video I did for Wacom, I was showing a demonstration between, I did a glass of beer, and I showed it, here's the grayscale, so here is value without color, still reads as a glass of beer. And you get everything you need, obviously adding the colors a lot more depth and mood and things like that. But showing the same glass of beer, color without value, first of all, it doesn't exist, it's just blank. So what I had to do was, I toned the canvas down and I gave it just a little bit of gray. And then I put the color on its own layer as an overlay. So all you saw was just really bright color and stuff, but there's no structure because you don't have those values. So without value, you don't have anything. You can have value without color and still read, but you can't have color without value. So even though a lot of artists just starting off want to go straight to color and all this crazy color detailed stuff, it's so important. That's why they teach it this way, in fine art schools. When I took graphic design 1, which was an entire quarter or semester course, was all grayscale because you need that. And then only after you really get a certain level of mastery of grayscale and value, then you start to worry about color. And that's a whole other beast in and of itself.
Yeah, okay, well, as far as talking points, why don't you kind of talk a little bit about how you went through to get that mastery of being able to see those colors? Because when I started out doing digital art, I was definitely a color drop painter, without question. And then over the years, I've kind of worked on it to where now I don't use it. And I still get tempted to use it, and it's so hard not to use it because it's so easy.
Right.
But it's you have to what did you go through to train your eye to see the colors and your understanding of color? Because it seems like you really kind of get it. Because I watched that video you did for Wacom with the glass of beer.
Thanks, man. I'm blushing.
Yeah. You really kind of understand it. Because that's what I thought when I watched it. I was that dude gets it. He knows this color stuff.
First thing right out of the gate, James Gurney. If you've never heard of him, incredibly talented guy. He's the author and the illustrator behind the Dinotopia books, and he also wrote this book. Yeah, yep, that's the hand. I'm gonna pull it up. Yep, hold that up for a second. We're giving him a shout. Maybe we can get him to come on one of these. Color and Light, which is an incredible book on color and light and shadow theory, but in a way that isn't dry. because it gives practical application. So when I teach, I do the same thing. I've had a bunch of color theory classes. Oh, Jesus. I've had I've had a bunch of color theory classes. Like, you think that's that? Thank you, Elijah. Let me get rid of this nonsense.
I agree.
Yeah. Where,
Thanks, Elijah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, here's a color wheel, right? Here are complementary colors. Here are the primary colors. Now go be Da Vinci. So what I try and do, which is very much following, what I've gotten from James Gurney, and I'm, he's gotten his stuff that he put in this book from other masters, but it's kind of refined. We need to block this guy. It's kind of condensed to like the most salient or like the most important bits. So instead of just giving you diagrams and color wheels, it's okay. These are the fundamentals that are going to apply under this lighting scheme, or in general. I'm really distracted. I need to close this.
What's going on?
Guys, writing
absurd comments.
Yeah, careful what you wish for. We asked for community interaction.
Yeah.
But
I can't see the Q&A, the box. Is there a box?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Hey, if we just answer his questions, he'll stop. Is that a ball sack?
No, it's not a ball sack.
No.
And no, I'm not a fan of the way poop tastes. Going back to your questions, Warren. I think that Gurney's book is awesome, but what helps me, and something I didn't know until very recently, apparently like 1 in every 16 men has some brand of color deficiency in their ability to see color, which I saw that and it blew my friggin' mind. And it's not like regular total color blindness or like blue-green, but like some semblance of color ineptitude or something like that. Whereas with women, it's like 1 in every 250 or something like that. That blew my mind. So it's entirely possible that some people are just not wired to see it that way. But I don't want to say that as an oversimplification. Even for me, I might be able to see colors better than some, but it's an active process of training. Where let me see if I can pull up a picture.
I think too, a lot of it's like having a revelation, just being aware of value and even understanding that it's even something you should apply to your work.
Right. There's a comparison I did that I posted recently. Jesus. Phil for a second here.
Well, having a value scale helps a lot too. There's the kind you can get for painting where it's just a bunch of squares, and just breaking everything down into like a 9-step value scale helps you kind of just go, okay, is that really, really dark, or in the middle, or is it in between gray and white? And then you can just, if you're dealing with it in increments, it's a little easier than like trying to imagine the whole range of gray values.
Yeah, so this is what I wanted to pull up. I made more progress on this one since I posted this, but this is basically less than a year is the difference. So yeah, I might be able to see colors in a certain way, but at the same time, it's an active process of training your eye to see colors.
Yeah, turn it to black and white real quick. Like add an effect or an adjustment layer for black and white.
We'll just duplicate this guy. But yeah, I think I know what you're going for.
Is there anything you specifically did to improve your ability to see color?
Yeah, a lot of checking back and forth. There have been times where I have used the color picker. For example, what I'll do is I won't sample the color and then paint with it, but let's say I've got, I'm painting and I'm like, oh, I really don't understand what that is. I'll take this and I'll look at it this way, and they'll be like, oh, this is in this hue family, this is in this value. Now, I won't go back and paint with that. Like, I will actually make sure I cancel out and then do it myself. But that way, like, if I'm totally lost, there was this one, shoot, I can't pull that up. But there was this one painting I'm working on right now for a client where it's like a really bright, vibrant sunrise. And I'm looking at the colors in the sunrise, and obviously when you either have sunrise or sunset, you've got these really vivid colors and highlights and shadows, and my brain tells me, let me see if I can get an example without being a jerk. Now I'm just going to talk. My brain tells me that there are all of these colors. This is a blue, and this is a red, and this is an orange, and this is a green, where in reality, if you actually look at it, it's all relative. I know what I'm going to pull up. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I think I agree that helps me a lot too. Just sampling photos, just to see like what color, like let's say the underside of a cloud, the shadow side, you might think it's blue, but in some cases you sample it and it's like more towards the green side of the hue. So sometimes you see colors, but your perception of color is skewed by all the colors around it.
Exactly. This is an example that I like to show students. This was from some reference I found on DeviantArt, I think, and I changed it a little bit. I went more monochromatic than I think it was. But the point being, this was one of the first times that I got it, where it's relatively a monochromatic piece. It's mostly like yellows and oranges. Now this model has blue eyes. So when I painted this, I had a hard time figuring out what to paint with, because the first thing I did was I went straight in, selected blue, and painted. But if if you look at this and I ask you what color are those eyes, and it obviously depends on the monitor and color syncing, depending on what monitor you're looking at this from. But to your eye, to the brain, they read as blue. But if you go in closely and you pick this, it's actually
it's like a red or an orange.
Right. Or when I was originally doing the colors I selected, because when you blend it, it changes. The colors I selected were really desaturated light yellow. Yeah. Because color itself, and this is another really important fundamental, that color only exists in relation to other colors.
Yeah.
Another example I like to show a lot is this. Give me 1 second. Here it is. Is this Assassin's Creed thing that I did a couple years ago, and this could be an entire lecture on color theory. But to condense it, there's this thing called local color, which Gurney does an awesome job explaining. Where if I asked you what color is the American flag, you would say red, white, and blue. Whereas in the natural world, things aren't that pure. So for example, this right here is like a sunset environment. So when you look at this American flag, these quote-unquote white stripes, the parts of them that are in the sunlight, you've got oranges, you've got yellows, a little bit of red, and then the parts of that white stripe that are facing away from that light source are cool because they're reflecting the sky. It's cool reflected light and shadow. So you've got blues and purples. There is no white in this scene, and where it really gets interesting, we're talking about the blue part of the American flag. The blue top where you've got the stars. There is no blue in this. It's all reds and desaturated reds to make them look like blue, maybe getting a little bit closer to purple, but not really. But it's your brain that tells you, because you have all these colors in the same scene, that relative to one another, they read a certain way even if they're not. So that's the biggest thing that kind of helped me to get it. That color only exists in relation to other color. I'm going to shut up. What were you saying?
And I think the background helps that too, because a lot of those colors in the flag were kind of gray, and gray tends to kind of be influenced by the environment colors. So your eye might see more blue in that gray, even though it's actually gray.
Absolutely. I'm going to get some resources queued up for next time. There's another thing I like to do where you've got the color wheel with like a little gray dot in the middle and a white background. I'm going to Phil again for another second. I'm going to try and cram as much value into this as possible.
Another thing I wanted to mention on the topic of sampling colors, when you're painting, if you're sampling a color that you already put down, you're sampling that color that you painted mixed with the color that's underneath it. So you're not always going to get that exact color that you think you're going to get. So you can't always depend on that.
Saturation, like anytime you color pick, you lose some saturation.
And by the way, I do that all the time. I don't color pick from the reference, but once I get color down on the canvas, I will definitely sample color that I've already put down on the canvas.
Yeah, I will too. But I always have the insight. I always know if I'm painting a shadow or something darker, typically it's usually going to be desaturated and darker in value. If I'm painting a highlight, typically that's going to be more saturated and brighter in value. And so I kind of have my own way of picking color just based on the color picker and painter, because it's this nice triangle, so you can really see saturation in relation to the value. I think that's helpful.
I like the color picker and painter a lot better than I do in Photoshop.
Yeah.
I don't know why. There's something about it. It makes more sense to me.
Yeah, it does. Just having those axes or whatever you say, being able to see them, yeah, it just really helps you visualize kind of where you're targeting that particular color.
Yeah.
Keep it relevant. I don't want to be totally like obsolete once I finally get to this demo, but keep going.
No, you're good. I think that's all I was going to say.
We're talking about painter, man.
Well, Phil for like one more minute. I'm almost done.
Okay. Let me do a screen share because there was one more thing I wanted to point out. Can we see my screen?
I see.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah.
You might have to switch over. So while I'm working on a piece, and this is something I started to do within like the last year or so, because I too kind of had to pay more attention to value. I'll add a layer, and in Photoshop you could just add an effect, like basically a live effect here for black and white, or you could desaturate it. Just look at your piece towards the end while you're working on it and go, okay, does everything seem balanced? Like, does the stuff in the distance appear darker than what's in the foreground or lighter? And really just have a good awareness of all of the levels of value in your piece. And if you do need to make adjustments, assuming you're working with a lot of layers, or I guess you could just add layers if you need to lighten or darken things, bring everything together in black and white, and then turn off that black and white filter, and then just really kind of go back and forth that way. It helps you, for one, be aware of it, and it helps you, for two, just look at it in black and white, even though you've already made it color, and then make those changes to fix it if you need to.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Almost done here. Okay, I think we're ready to do this. I don't know how well it's going to work for people watching, but anyway. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and this is all about color relativity, and Eric, Aaron, you're talking about how neutral grades, when put next to different colors, look certain ways. But anyway, what I want to do now, I'm going to lock this on this screen for a second. Give me 1 second. I want you to look at, in the middle of this color wheel, lock your eyes on this neutral gray until I tell you to stop. Okay? Actually, stop for a second. Close your eyes. Close your eyes for 1 second.
Close my eyes. All right.
Close your eyes for a second.
They're closed.
Okay. All right, now start again. Okay, now look at the gray dot in the middle until I tell you to stop. Okay, just focus on that. Really focus. Let the images bleed into your eyes. You ready?
It's burning.
Don't look away. I'm gonna do something, but only look at the gray dot in the middle. Don't move your eyes. You ready?
Are you gonna answer Elijah's question?
Hang on. Now look.
Whoa!
That was weird. I don't like it. I don't like it.
So what it's doing, what I did was I took all these colors, I desaturated them, and now it's all grayscale. But what your eye is doing is when you switch to grayscale, your brain gets confused. So it's actually turning those grays into the complements of the colors underneath them. So when I swap to grayscale, this yellow becomes violet, this violet becomes yellow, the red becomes green, blue becomes orange, etc. So it's really kind of crazy to see this stuff about how your eyes.
Yeah, I think I saw something. I think I saw something where, like, if you stare at the yellow burns into your eye, and then once it's removed, you see the opposite of that color.
Yes.
So yeah, so in HSV color, this might be a good thing to mention. When you're looking at a color wheel on a computer, the relation of colors is entirely different than if you've got a painter's color wheel. Like on a computer, blue would be the opposite of yellow. On a painter's color wheel, I believe it's orange and yellow.
Right.
So that might be something that confuses people, but that's good to know because if you're painting with blue and yellow together and you're getting gray and you're wondering why you're getting gray, it's because that's the way that particular color model works.
Right. And another thing, we're talking about complementary colors. I'm trying to think how I can do this. When you add complementary colors to one another, so let's say I take, and this is with real pigment, I think it also works with digital, but when you take red and you take its complement green and you combine them evenly, you get neutral gray.
Yeah, let me do a screen share. I could show you
go ahead.
that real quick. Let's see it in action while we're on these.
What was that?
Is any of this helpful? Making sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so can we see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, so we have the color picker and painter, which is very helpful because it has the complementary colors across from each other.
Mm.
So if we take blue, and we'll verify that this is blue because it's at 0, and we have a scale of 255. So we'll put down some blue, and we'll take a yellow, which will be 128 if we want to get very specific about it being the exact color. And
well, those are not complements. I think those are going by maybe RG. I don't know, depending on the color mode.
But yeah, it's HSV color,
Okay.
not so. If you zoom in, you'll start to see all I did was just do a light layer of yellow, and it starts to blend naturally. And if you sample using the color picker, you'll see as it starts to transition. If you watch over here, it starts to basically just move towards neutral. It hits neutral, and then it starts to double back the other direction. So these colors are, in HSV color theory, these colors are complementary to each other. On a painter's color wheel with subtractive color, it's completely different. That would be, I believe it would be orange and blue would be complementary to each other.
Yeah, and another thing, because I had never actually, for whatever reason, I never heard of those terms until recently. So subtractive that's pigment. What it means is, you're subtracting, so the more color you add, you're subtracting until you get to black, which is the absence of color, whereas digital is additive because it's light. So the more colors you add, you're getting closer and closer, adding until you get closer to white. So light, the color of light is additive, pigment is subtractive.
Yeah.
But just briefly, Torin, the takeaway, little exercises. I would try that. I'm locked on Aaron. I would take like a photo and kind of just guess. I mean, I'm going to do this live now, and if I do it wrong, I'm going to look like an asshole. But I'm going to pull up a piece of photo reference. Do I have something?
Elijah still wants to see a ball sack, so if you got one of those.
And 40 children, if you have pictures of those.
Yeah.
This isn't a photo, but this is like an Apple study a while ago. But so what I'm gonna try and figure out. Let's pick this area over here, okay? And now live in front of everybody, God help me, I'm gonna try and figure out what that is. I'm gonna say pretty close to pure red as far as hue is concerned.
Do you usually pick your hue first?
Yes.
Okay. That's good because I do too. I think it just helps to, it's the easiest step, one of the easiest steps to discern is the hue, I think.
Oh man, I'm nervous. I think I'm off.
That's pretty close, I'd say.
My value's a little bit off. It's actually going to be closer to second time's the charm. Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty on.
Yeah.
Can you actually see? There's barely a difference at all.
Yeah. Once you start making more guesses, kind of like you're doing there, you do start to kind of build a more intuitive response to picking the colors. Like I find I can.
Yeah. Point being, and I've gotten away from doing this. Plus, I don't test it quite as much, but I'll do it on the fly. You know, when I'm doing this that portrait I showed a minute ago. Anytime I'm going for realism, I'm looking at the reference, and I'm taking a minute. I'm forcing myself to slow down, because when I started off, I was rushing. I said, okay, I want to get this color, and it's kind of in this range, so I'm just going to pick this one. But now, like, I realized how important color is, because even if there's some artists that I really like where they won't even go for accuracy as far as detail or proportion are concerned. It's just a color study, and even when everything is off, the values and the colors are dead on, and you know exactly what it is. So what I'll do is I'll take a minute. I'll force myself to take a beat, and I'm gonna guess. Okay, what color is this little area in the cheek? And I'm gonna do it again, and hopefully I don't screw it up. So I'm gonna say, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at the hue. I'm gonna slide it up a little bit because it's close to red, but it definitely has some yellow. I'm gonna say it's around in this family, right? And the next thing I'm gonna look for is where's my saturation and where is my value at. So I think that might be. I think it has a little bit more red. I'm gonna say something closer to that. And that's like dead on.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It does help to really break it down like that, and just for the beginners too, in that particular color picker, the value is the vertical axis and the saturation is the horizontal. So really what you're doing is you're trying to get really close to the color and then just make little incremental tweaks. You need to go a little more saturated, a little less, and if you don't get the color right, just tweak it a little bit more until it's what you want.
Yeah, so it is. It's a couple different stages, like I just showed. And I don't know if you knew, you can't see me, but I've been so friggin' nervous that I was going to get this wrong. But, it's a couple steps. So the first thing I'll do, like I said, is I'm going to identify, okay, what hue, what family is this? So I look at this, and I take my time, and I figure, okay, well, it's close to red, but it's got a little bit of yellow in it, so it's going to be somewhere around here on the slider. And the next thing I'm going to do is I want to identify the value. So in value, obviously, light and dark, independent of color information. So I pick the family. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say where light and dark are we? And I'm going to say, okay, it's somewhere around here, right? And then the last step is saturation. And I'm constantly looking back and forth from, the color I want to replicate to the color picker I'm working with. And it's somewhere, well, actually, this one has a little more red. I'm just kind of fudging it right now. But it's something kind of close to that.
And it also kind of helps to look at the color picker and to look at that center point, that neutral gray point, and decide, is it lighter or is it darker than neutral gray?
Exactly. And it's all just everything with art, at least that I've noticed, being drawing or painting, everything is relative. So if you're trying to get structure in a portrait or a line drawing or whatever, it's okay, what is this angle relative to this angle? What is this size relative? Everything is relative. And it's very much the same with color and values. That so the first thing I'll do is I'll take some time, like I'll put down some base tones, and I really want to make sure that those are pretty accurate, because then I'm going to use those kind of as a frame of reference. And I want to make sure that I have this in there really, really rock solid, because then that's going to become a reference point, because I'm going to use, okay, so where is this tear duct? What's the angle between this tear duct to this tear duct? And getting that angle right, and then saying, okay, this corner of the mouth in relation to this edge of the nose, and then using that spatial relationship. So really, just, seeing where does this fall in line with this, or what is this color in relation to this color?
Yeah.
And that's really the key to it. It's not a magic bullet, but just seeing relationships. That's short answer. That's my key. Is figuring out relationships between one color to another, angles from one to another, and do that exercise all the time. The one that I just showed you, until like you start to pick it up, and then you'll be amazed at how much easier it gets to now the point where I am much more comfortable doing loose stuff. I was terrified to do loose paintings because I didn't know what I was doing with value or color. So I had to really kind of just go over and over and over again until it was kind of accurate. Where now I've done these exercises enough that I'm a little more confident with my colors and my values that I can say, okay, this is the color I want I want to go with, I'm going to confidently make this stroke. And it allows you to have something looser, and it still reads as what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I think on the topic of color, too, it's worth mentioning, at least for beginners, that even if you don't get that color exactly right, you are using Photoshop, and you can go in and you can tweak that color. You know, if it needs to be a little more yellow or a little more red, especially for skin tones, because that can happen.
Yeah, and you know, you might say that, oh well, that's making it so easy. If you're doing traditionally, it wouldn't be. You know what? That's not a bad thing. And you
Well,
know,
there's glazing.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I do. For the longest time, like I tried to justify or complain, but no. But you know what? Yeah, it does make it easier in a lot of ways, and that's not a bad thing. You know, as technology increased, even before you got to digital, you know, photography made things a lot easier. But you know, just because it makes it easier doesn't mean it makes you any worse. It just gives you more tools that you can use. But you know, you can either paint or you can't paint.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Mike, can I took a screenshot of your face here that you painted.
Okay.
And I saw how you were doing your color picking and trying to like guess and match how to do it.
Yeah.
If I show you a different way.
Absolutely, I would love to see it.
All right. Let me see if I can figure out how to share my
We're coming
screen.
up on 2 hours, so I would say probably no more than like another 15 minutes. Is everybody okay with that?
It'll take like 5 seconds.
Okay. And apologies because I have certainly monopolized most of the talking time. So.
All right. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. You can see Photoshop.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So here's what I would do. Like you were talking about coming in here and selecting something or like doing a color pick and trying to like guess and see like where it is and the values and all this stuff, like, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you were at. Okay. So this is how I learned how to paint traditionally. All right.
Okay.
This is a digital version of a palette that was designed by a painter at the Art Students League, New York City, back in like the 30s, 40s, maybe it was the 50s. I think it was 50s. Named Frank Riley. It's a controlled palette. This technique is the same technique that James Gurney uses and to paint. He pre-mixes his colors. So like if this was a traditional palette, you'd have your values of red, your values of yellow-red, your values of yellow, and you have values of gray tone that control the chroma of any one of these colors. Okay, so you control the chromatic intensity with gray.
Mm-hmm.
I transferred this knowledge over to the computer doing this. So, like for example, if I want...
That's the noise I always make when I click something wrong like that.
Oh, right. If I want this yellow, but I don't want it to be that intense, it's this value gray as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to come in here, and just depending on the amount of pressure I apply, I can gradate out.
So you work on top of that value?
Yes, like I have the value 6 gray and the value 6 yellow toggling. So I have Photoshop set up to blend my colors depending on pressure sensitivity.
Okay.
All right, I don't know if you do that or how many people do that, but that's how I work.
That's very... No, I never even thought of that.
Yeah,
Right. All right, so going back to what you were saying about, you know, going in here and doing all this guesswork, I don't do any of that. Because
yeah, you know, I think that I'm banking very much on... I think mine is a lot harder to replicate probably because I'm improvising a lot. I know that a lot of people have a much easier time by doing that, by like going and putting your palette out there.
Right.
Pre-mixing colors. That's probably a lot easier. That's just the way that I do it. And
yeah, I understand. No, so let me finish. So let me show you this.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do before I try to figure out what color is I'm going to drop I'm going to desaturate the entire image.
Okay.
All right. I want to know what the value is. So let's get rid of that. I want to know what the value is. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select, let's say, the top of his nose here. Right. And I'm going to go into, well, let's try that again. I'm going to go into the color picker. That's around value 5 for me. All right, that's about 50% gray. So on my color picker, that's around about here. Okay?
Yeah.
So the equivalent brown would be here. So let's just try that. I'm going to take that and hit OK. I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to make a little mark. Whoops. Make a little mark here. And then I'm going to turn off the desaturation, and I've got my color. There's no guesswork at that point. It's just math. You come in here, you select, I can come in here, I can select this. All right? I find out, okay, so that's between value 4 and 5, about 4 and 3. So that's on my chart. That's 4, 3, right here.
Okay.
All right. It's 35%. So it's going up toward 40%, which is the 4.
Okay.
So think of it like 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 0. All right.
Percentages of black.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select this color, brown, but
where do you get that family of brown from?
I just took a gradation. All right, so let's say.
Like, how did you arrive at that hue?
Right. Okay. So I'll show you. What I think I did, because I made this chart years ago, because this is the only way I could understand how to paint digitally, was to take what I knew how to do in oils and then transition it. So I think what I did was I grabbed, and I have it for the entire color wheel, so it doesn't necessarily have to be flesh tones. It can be yellow, red, purple, it can be anything. So I think I probably took this swatch, this gray tone swatch, off of one of those color calibration sites.
Right.
And then all right, so I'd say that's value 8. And I think I did something where I just, played with it until I got the saturation or whatever that I wanted, and then I just kept playing with the values until I got an even match.
Yeah, so I mean, it does still require a fair amount of intuition.
Yeah, but once I did that, it was done.
Right. Okay.
So, that's how you know my colors are accurate. When I desaturate it, the color version is the exact same as the gray tone.
Right.
That's what I was going for. So once I had that, I knew I was correct.
I see the leftmost one it looks like it's a little bit darker.
Yeah, because I'll show you. For different types of skin, let me turn it off. These. For different types of skin, you're going to have your warm areas and your cool areas based on the temperature zone of the face. So that's where that comes in. It's just this layer of blue that I just put over.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So for this guy's face, he's got this 5 o'clock shadow thing going on. That's between value 3 and 4. So I'll probably take this color and that color. Whoops. That color and that color. Come in here. based on pressure sensitivity.
Right. Which I never thought to do that.
So there you go. All right. So I mean, that way there's no guesswork. I mean, if I wanted to make this guy's face purple, I could do that.
Right.
You know, that's value 5 gray, about 49%. So it's about value 5. So I come in here and I say, okay, value 5. Now, and I can just literally come in here and just paint this guy's face however I want it to be. You know, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I can make it.
This is so cool.
At that point, I can make his face whatever color I want because it's all based on numbers.
Do you know if Mike does a similar thing?
Mm-hmm.
He does?
Oh, I don't know if he does or not. No, I think Mike's like color picking. He's
okay.
But like when I start an illustration, I'll literally spend maybe 20 minutes just going through my gray tone sketch or my photos, and I'll desaturate the entire thing, and I'll go through and go, okay, that's value 3, and I'll literally just sit there and make notes on the drawing.
That's really interesting.
3,
like you make those little checkpoints.
4,
Yeah.
8, 9. You know.
Yeah, I've seen this done before. I never put it together like that.
I do that with acrylic paintings a lot when I'm blocking them in.
Yeah, this is, let's say that's 2. That's 1/2. His nostril, that's 1. You know, this is 3. And I'm just guessing, but let me see if I'm accurate. I mean, that's probably 2 or 3.
So is this palette, is this something you created yourself?
Yeah, I created that myself. It's not something I like. I don't think to share this stuff because I just assume people know it. But
never assume.
Huh?
Never assume.
Yeah, I think everybody should have that value scale. I have one in Painter. I just have some swatches that have a 9-step value scale, and it comes in handy, especially when you're trying to teach somebody. You know, you're trying to say, okay, fill this particular area with a certain color, rather than say fill it with a dark gray. You can say fill it with a 7 value.
Right.
Right. So like I just sampled this little sliver of hair.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote value 3, and I just went in to check, and that's like 35%. So that's between value 3 and 4. So I was pretty close.
Yeah.
And so like the value of the highlight on his nose, I said that was value 8. So I was off by 1 value. So that's 9. That's value 9 instead of value 8. Because value 8 would be this.
I have one thing that we didn't really touch on, and
you've got value 8 around the highlight.
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Which is that?
Shifting the hue of the color too. Like we're talking a lot about shifting the value when we're painting and painting kind of monochromatically. I think at least in my work, I'd like to shift the hue. Like if I'm doing and Eric mentioned that too. He has the kind of color balance there where his shadows are cooler and his highlights are warmer. I think that's very important, not only to just think, okay, what's the hue and what's the value, you also have to shift the hue. If you don't, you're not going to get a very natural result. It's going to look kind of flat.
And that's the whole color temperature thing. Torn, you probably saw that in the Wacom video.
Yeah.
Where, you know, in addition to changing the value, because a lot of people when they do highlights or shadows, all they do is shift the value, and it makes things really washed out. So, for example, you know, even in this like little sliver over here, I don't know if you can see, of this part of the shirt, you know, as I get, not only am I getting lighter, you know, you've got kind of closer to a desaturated blue. As I get lighter and closer to the highlight, in addition to getting lighter in value, I'm going closer to cyan. Let me see if there's another good example. This one is, it's not quite as, ooh, there's a really good example in here. Don't mind my excitement. Can you see this at all?
Yeah.
You know, in this highlight, it's going from, first of all, this is like a dark purple, what I have in the base of the glasses over here. Mm-hmm. And then as I'm doing this highlight, I did this in a couple steps. So the first thing I did is I laid down this kind of medium range blue. And then I did it in layers. And now I did it all on one layer. I have a terrible habit of working on very few layers. Now if you look over here, it looks like I've got a lot of different layers, but all it is, I just make checkpoints of progress. So here's step 1, and then step 2, step 3, 4, 5, etc. So these are just different steps in progress. I have a terrible habit of working on 1 or 2 layers actively, most, which kind of it makes me feel like it's more of a traditional type of workflow, and again, it forces me to to be confident. But anyway, back to this. This highlight, I laid down kind of like a mid-range, or a little bit lighter of a blue, and then I'll put that straight across. And then as I get to this really hot part of the highlight, I'm getting a little closer to cyan than this part. Well, this is all similar in.
Well, it's blended though, but when you put the paint down, you probably had picked more color. Yeah. Exactly.
So in addition, especially here, it's purple, and you get to the blue as I'm getting lighter, and then here especially, it's closer to cyan and closer to white. So it's a combination of boosting up in value as well as shifting that hue.
Yeah. I almost always go cooler with my shadows and warmer with my highlights, and I guess that might be something for another video that we do, but just kind of color theory and the perception of.
Throw so much in it unless we're gonna start charging for this shit.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we're almost at about 7:15.
We have a comment from somebody here.
What do we got?
Test hello. Hello, Angela.
Hi, Angela.
Test hello. Where is that?
It's in our questions.
It's in the middle of all of Elijah's.
It's between ballsack and poopy farts.
Oh. All right, we're gonna put this up. This is now the question we're going. Yes, test hello. So she'll see this in about 20 seconds. We've got time for one more question. So Angela, if you happen to see this when it gets around with a delay, ask us your question, and this quartet of dastardly handsome, incredibly talented gentlemen will take on your question. Now we play the waiting game. But yeah, so Torin, those are two very, very different ways to approach it.
I do it in kind of the way that you do it.
Yeah.
Like I'll look at it and I'll just kind of guess. And a lot of the times I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. Like I'll share something real fast.
Yeah.
About something.
Yeah, Angela, we see. She said hi. It's her first time here. I don't know if that was new. But yeah, I approach it same way I approach music. Now, I'm not super talented at music, but I've always had like an inherent ability to kind of just play by feel. And I think in a lot of ways, music and art and a lot of other things are very, very similar. There's a lot of carryover. So the way I approach music is very similar to the way I approach art, where it's very much by feel. And some people can't do that. I'm terrible at math, so I might have a harder time doing it the way that Eric does.
Like, can you see my screen right now?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we can see you.
Yeah, like this is what I was struggling with when we were talking yesterday, the drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the drawing's done, but like this color right in here, that is one of the, some of the things that would throw me off. So
just off the top of my head, I would add blue to it.
Yeah. You know what helps me with those is adding a layer, like a multiply layer, and then just painting with blue over that. That'll cool everything off.
Yeah, because you see like this orange right here where, like if I were to color pick this, it's probably closer to like a reddish pink, but it's supposed to be an orange, so it's...
Can you pull up the reference real quick?
Yeah, got the reference right here.
Yeah. Now zoom in on that, on the part you're working with.
Like right in there.
Yeah, so more often than not, when you have an area like that that is covered by a cast shadow, you're going to decrease in value, and you're also going to get a little bit cooler. Now, just in looking at this, and I don't know how good my resolution is, I see that there's a lot more warmth in that yellow band too. That yellow band, which you have as like stark yellow,
Mm-hmm.
It's really closer to like a marigold.
Yeah, the hue is shifted towards orange a little bit too because it's in shadow.
Yeah.
And by the way, Angela, we're getting your comments, so if you'd like to ask a question, I would go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up here soon.
Yep. So like I'm just in the block-in phase right now, so I'm just kind of getting everything started. But you know.
Are you from Oklahoma, or is this just a?
He's from Kansas.
I'm just a fan. I'm from Kansas.
Yeah, I'm from Seattle. I'm not really that into sports, so I won't take it personally. But people here,
yeah,
they get all upset that their team went away. And I used to live in Oklahoma too. I'm like, why? I mean, why would people that make that much money want to go live in Oklahoma? I don't know.
Very true. But yeah, I was just looking for something to draw because I'm kind of like in between big projects, and I'm a fan, so figured I'd do something.
Yeah, I liked it. I've checked out some of your work.
Yeah, your stuff is looking. And I also love drawing style.
Mhm. Yeah, I like the exaggerations mixed with that realistic lighting. It's a nice balance.
Yeah, like I'm primarily a caricature artist. So, you know, I don't know, I just find the exaggeration stuff to be fun.
My stuff looks exaggerated, but it's not on purpose.
I think, you know, making strides with the color stuff, Torn, is going to make a huge difference. And, you know, I'm not doing it so much on this one that I'm showing. We're stuck on your screen right now. But there have been a couple times I did a Resner painting where I actually exaggerated the colors. Which sometimes gives it more of a sense of realism. So it depends. But you know, once you know the rules, then you can start breaking them. And you know that's true of anything.
Because like as far as the color stuff, like I get it, I understand it, and I apply it. It's just like I want to get better with it. You know what I mean?
It's like it's really subtle stuff. Like clearly you know what you're doing, and it looks good. It's just a question of, okay, what little things can I tweak just a little bit that even though it's a subtle tweak, it ends up making a really big difference.
Exactly. That's what I'm looking for. Just something, you know, just that next level stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I have a quick suggestion if you want to pop over to my screen share real quick.
On broadcast view.
Adding a multiply layer, especially for cooling stuff down, you can just add a layer on top of what you have already rather than just, you know, repainting it. And then just take blue and then just paint a little blue over it, like so, and that'll kind of cool it down a little bit.
Okay.
I generally do that for my shadows and things. That way I don't have to go through and repaint the whole thing.
You know, I do a very similar thing just because I have that terrible habit of not working with a lot of layers. I do more of a traditional technique where I'll be working maybe on the same layer, or maybe I'll make an extra layer. But what I'll do is I'll pick the color I want to add. So maybe I say that, you know, I want, I'm not on the broadcast. Hang on 1 second. And then we got a question from Angela. I'm going to take that in 1 second. So let's say, you know what, I want more saturation for it. I want it to be brighter, orange, vibrant. So what I'm going to do, can you see my screen, guys?
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to go all the way super saturated and bright over here. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to take my brush, but before I put pigment down, you know, usually when I'm blocking in colors, I'll be at about 70. I'm going to turn this down to about 20%. So when I paint over it, it's very mild, but you can instantly see, you know, it's like a very fine wash, and instantly it's subtle, but I'm adding more of that, you know, that vibrance to it. So that's what I'll do. Where, you know, if I was going to paint traditionally, which I really don't do much of, I haven't done for a long time, but I would do the same thing, where I would take that bright pigment and I would really water it down, and then I would just do like a fine glaze. So it's a subtle, gradual change, but you're adding more of what you're going for instead of saying, okay, you know what, I want this whole area to be brighter, so I'm going to manually pick exactly.
Yeah, no, you don't want to do that.
Exactly.
Because you don't have to. You don't even have to do that with traditional paint. You can just use glazing medium and
So that's what I would do. Now I'm going to pull up this question. This is a Mike-centric question. Do you guys want to add anything before we get to this?
No, I'm good.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm good.
So Angela is asking, she says, Mike, I have a question. So how do you teach a student if you were to teach someone? Will you do it here on Google Hangout, Skype, or how? So Aaron, you also teach in person, right?
I teach in person and online too.
Yeah, so I do the same thing where I teach both on location and online. But if I'm doing something like this, especially if I have students who are remote, like either internationally or across the country, I will do exactly like this, like what we're doing right here, where if it's a group class, you'll have a bigger number. If it's a private lesson, it'll be just the two of us in a format like this, where I'll be sharing my screen like I'm doing right now and doing a live demo, and then I can have you share your screen. Now I'm focusing on you, Torin, where you'd be sharing your screen just like Torin is, and that way I can see live what you're working on and give you live feedback, that is specific to what you're working on. So that's basically how that works. And hope that's helpful. Now I want to wrap up because we're coming up on 2.5 hours, which is great. At some point, maybe we'll decide what we want to do for an average length. But I kind of like that this is a little bit casual. I think the more we do these, the more attention, the more community interaction we'll get. Do you guys have anything you want to add?
No, I think I'm good.
And Angela, if you have further questions or you want more feedback on that, just give me a shout off the air.
I guess I have one thing, the obvious thing. All of our viewers should check out our websites, and
yes, hang on, let me do that.
We've got them right here, and if we don't, then well, I guess we could all give a shout out to ourselves.
Yeah, let's do that. So Aaron, go ahead first.
Yeah, AaronRutten.com. You can look up Aaron Rutten on YouTube. I have a bunch of free video tutorials for digital painting, and I also teach private lessons and online classes.
Torin, where can we find your lovely work?
Let's see, tornthomasart.blogspot.com. I'm also on DeviantArt. Instagram is @Torin278. Twitter is the same handle. Email me, tweet me, whatever you want to do.
Give them a hug, whatever you like.
Yeah, you want to send me gifts, cake, I like whatever you want to do.
Eric, I think, Eric, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I don't have one of those fancy banners.
So just, shout it out.
All right.
And pull up your face so we can see your face before we leave. I don't want to leave without seeing your handsome face again. There it is.
It's ericwilkersonart.com. I'm also on Instagram, ericwilkersonart. So, and ericwilkerson.blogspot.com if you want to check my blog. But all that's linked up through my main website. So, I also like cake.
I really like cake. I think that's
for me.
I'm more of a pie person.
With sprinkles. With sprinkles.
I was on your website for like an hour and a half last night, Eric.
Really?
Yeah, just looking.
All right, everybody hug.
Right on. All right.
I'm in there, man.
Lastly, you can find me on here. I've got my Facebook. I think that's probably where I'm the most active. Facebook.com/MikeMethArtist. Also, my official site is MikeMeth.net. Not to be confused with MikeMeth.com. That's some other guy who has the domain but doesn't have a site. So MikeMeth.net. I've got DeviantArt and all that other stuff, but all of those links are on my MikeMeth.net. Like I said, I do commercial work like the rest of these guys, but again, I also teach both on location, but I teach online. The website for that is MikeMethEducation.com. There's a link for that also on MikeMeth.net. You can pretty much find whatever you need on MikeMeth.net. And I'm sure we'll find a more elegant way to throw out all these links in later episodes. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you to my wonderful guests, Mr. Aaron Rutten, Mr. Eric Wilkerson, Mr. Torin Thomas, and last but not least is Fernanda Suarez. Fernanda Suarez, who was here earlier, who had to leave us. Extraordinarily talented artist. I believe... Oh man, I'm gonna try and remember her link. I think it might be
DeviantArt.
FDA Suarez.
I think it might be FDA Suarez.
Yeah.
DeviantArt.com. I'm not positive. Look her up.
I googled her name and it came up as like the first thing.
Yeah, she's a big deal. So if you search for her name, she'll come up. And So thank you again for everybody who tuned in, and we will let you know as soon as we figure out when we want to do the next one of these. But if you missed this live, obviously you're not hearing me live, but this is going to be up on my YouTube channel, which is, I believe, youtube.com/MikeMethArtist. And we'll have this as well as all the subsequent episodes we do. And that's all we got for you. So thank you guys. I want to pull up one more thing because I didn't think to do this ahead of time. Why don't we all put on some hats? You guys know how to do that?
I actually don't.
Ah, man. All right, so we'll do hats next time. For the time being, let's close it out with. And Aaron's got a nice beard. We'll do a round of applause. And that's more than enough of that nonsense. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
See ya.
Later.